Well, I remember coming home one day. It was 10 degrees outside. I was wearing long johns. I smelled like garlic. And I just said to her, I can't keep doing this. There's no future for us here. I'm living in New York. The governor is saying that they don't like our conservative values. It's 10 degrees outside. The ability to build a business in New York is dwindling. I'm making less money. I'm working harder. I have to find something different. What do you think if I go into real estate? And I sprung it on her, and I thought she would have been like, what are you, nuts?
Welcome to the Our Family Invest podcast, where we explore what happens when family, purpose, and entrepreneurship align. I'm Mike, a former Maui firefighter who reached financial freedom in just 5 years through real estate investing.
And I'm Caroline, a Maui-based realtor here to educate, empower, and elevate my clients to make smart real estate moves, whether right here at home or through my nationwide network.
Together, we're chasing our full potential as individuals, as a couple, and as a family. We're here to build a life that matters. And each week we share the stories of couples who inspire us to love harder, dream bigger, and grow bolder. So join us and let's learn, share, and grow together. Today we're excited to sit down with Gino and Julia Barbaro. Gino has built a multifamily empire with over 1,800 units and $350 million in assets under management. He's created a coaching program that's helped countless investors, authored multiple books, trained as a chef, and still finds time to host one of the top real estate podcasts out there. Julia is a Christian life and marriage coach, an author, mom of 6, bringing faith, clarity, and purpose into the conversation around family and money. Together, they've been married 27 years, homeschooled their kids, written books, and now as certified money coaches, they're helping families align wealth, faith, and legacy. Their story is proof that you don't have to sacrifice your marriage or your kids to build something extraordinary. All right, you guys, I want to get into all that stuff, but first I want to kind of know who each of you are at your core. So if you were to strip away all the businesses, all the success, the books, the accolades, all that stuff, who is Gino and Julia Barbaro? But here's the thing. I want you to answer for Julia, and then Julia, if you could answer for Gino.
Well, I was going to say age before beauty, so I'm going to go first.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is, she's the mother of 6. I'm the father of 6. You forgot to mention that. So that's important as well. Wow. So
I put that on my bio.
Yeah, but
I don't think
I don't know why
that.
mine's not on my bio.
Know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
You got to double check me. Why aren't you checking me out, baby?
You.
Okay. Anyway, if I had to step at and look at it, my lens, really looking at Julia's life, I would say a selfless, sacrificing mother who puts her kids and family ahead of everybody else, who nursed her children for over 20 years, was sitting there, sleep deprived, didn't know what was going on for like 10 of those 20 years, just woke up a few years ago and is like, you know what? I love this mom thing, but I know I'm built for more and I want to really impact others. And I see that my husband's doing this cool coaching thing. I'm making fun of him a little bit. What's this life coaching thing? But when I get to know about it, like, this is really cool. And I'm going to become a coach. And oh, by the way, I'm a better coach than Gino right now. So that's what I would say about Julia. Julia?
That was very impressive. I think that's good. I don't think we don't have to,
Yes,
we don't have to top that. No,
baby.
I think my husband is, again, I'm not going to copy what he said, but he's all about the family. And I think that's something that, nowadays, I feel like a lot of people are just about work, but his core is, how can I take care of and love my family? And then also beyond that is his faith. And I think sometimes we are so focused on family and we forget what really is ultimately the importance. And I know that he brings his faith into the family. He's the spiritual head of our household, and he shows that by how he is a father to our children, how he's a husband to me. And I think that's where his success comes from, is that he puts that first. He knows what the foundation is. Success is important and all that. Money is important and all that. But he knows what that foundation takes, and it's sacrifice, and it's hard work, and it's prayer, and it's messing up, and it's starting over, and it's asking for forgiveness, and all of that. Because if you have that house at home, like he provides for us, and that his example is, that's when you can go out in the world and actually be successful financially. Is you have that support, and you have that love, and you have all of that at home, is what he built. And I'm like, together we've done it, but I mean, to have that strong father figure at home, I think is bigger than we think. And I think that he shows that.
So that's the good. Let's get to the bad and the ugly.
Oh,
now,
this
okay?
is good.
So the
Another
good is
podcast.
all over with. Let's jump
Before
into
that, before we get to the bad and the ugly, but thank you for sharing. I already appreciate your relationship, so thank you for being here. Can you take us back to when you first met and what your first date was like?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Because you can go. Or maybe you don't remember.
I
Here's the
remember.
story, which I always love to tell because I worked at this little Italian restaurant in my hometown. And there comes this Italian family who's buying this restaurant. And I'm thinking, who are these people? Like, what are they coming in and disrupting life for me and the community there? And it was my husband who walked into the restaurant and bought it. As I was there, a waitress, I was a young girl, a young teenager. And there was something about him that struck me. And it was his love for his family. He worked with his mom, his dad, his brother. And there was something about it, something about him that I'm like, I want to know about this more. We came from very different backgrounds. And so his was all about family and food, which, who could go wrong with that? But it was that. And I think our first date, there was many first dates.
I'm trying to think of the
The
very
one that
first
I
one.
remember right now is when we went to the city and we had sushi. I
Oh,
brought you
yeah.
because this is an Italian boy, remember? So he didn't have sushi. I
Fish
brought him.
should be cooked. I'm just saying.
I brought him to
that was the mantra.
great
Not the
New York
mantra
City.
anymore, but
New
that
York-
was the
yeah.
mantra.
New York City.
It was
A
awesome.
sushi. It was a Japanese restaurant,
it was
and we had
awesome.
sushi. And I, of course, I was very uncomfortable, so I ordered one piece of tuna each for both of us, and we both sat there and looked at it. And he tasted it, and he's like, "Wow, that's the best thing I ever had." And I was like,
Awesome.
"Okay, I think we're good."
Yeah. It was awesome.
I love
Nice.
it.
That was my memory.
Yeah.
Wow. So was that the moment that you knew that she was the one at that dinner?
It's a great question. It was one of those things where when you're younger, you're not really thinking about like, is that the one right away? I mean, it's like, cause I'm working and I don't know. And I just enjoyed it. I really liked her at the time. And I thought that having pressure from the family saying, is that the right one? I'm an Italian. I don't know if you guys know about Italians. You got to marry an Italian. You can't go outside the fold. You get all the
I was
pressure.
the black sheep. Okay,
She was
I was
she was
Irish.
the blonde sheep, not the black sheep. Okay, so that's the reality. And then getting all this pressure, and she works at the restaurant, and I was just like, I don't know, I liked her, I enjoyed her, I liked talking to her. Soft spoken, really, she's a great person. So that's what I fell in love with.
I love that. So after you two got married, got over the non-Italian, what was the first dream that you guys had together as a couple before kids, before real estate, and how did that dream evolve over the years?
Well, the really first dream was how many kids we wanted. We wanted 5. That was who said. We
I think that was our.
6.
I'm sorry. Let's go back. That was actually our first date. We were on the beach visiting your brother at college, and that was a question he asked me: "Is how many kids?" And I said, "I don't know, 5." You're like, "Oh, that's what I want too." I'm like, "Great."
Everyone else wanted us to have 2, but we wanted more. So that was the really weird part about it.
Funny
wasn't
enough
it?
that our memories coming
Yes.
back.
Wow.
I think, like Gino said, I think for us, one of the things that we dreamed about and we talked about even before we were dating is just family life. And I do remember talking to him before we dated, which went into our marriage, about how we were going to raise a family and how important family life is. Because at the time, this was, quite a while, like almost 30 years ago, I feel like the family was changing and a lot of people weren't getting married. They weren't having children. And that was something I always wanted to, before we even got married, we had this conversation of, I would really love to stay home and raise a family. And that was for Gino. I remember he was like, "You do?" like, wait, what? Like everyone I know wants this big career. And I said, well, that's important. But my ultimate desire is to raise a family. And I think that's one of the things that actually attracted us to each other. And that came along with the dream from years later into our marriage was, okay, now we're going to start our family in a sense. And that was our dream.
Nowadays, they call it the trad life. And back then, it was just like you get married,
It is what it is.
whether the husband stays home or the wife stays home, there's somebody staying home with the kids. And we wanted that. And then she spilled a big story on me. Let's homeschool. And that's another Italian thing where like you're gonna have your kids stay at home and you're gonna teach your kids, and that was another nightmare, like a mountaintop. And I had to, but that was probably one of the top 5 best decisions that we made for our family. It's like she stays home with the kids, and listen, it is a tremendous sacrifice having one of the parents stay home. We didn't have her income coming in, although I was doing well. I could have been doing even better, right? But that was our decision, and it was very hard because I'm working on the weekends. I'm working late at night. She's staying home a lot of nights, and she's by herself. She's really overwhelmed, really tired, has a bunch of kids running around. So it does sound great and all, and it worked really well for us, but it was challenging early on.
Yeah. It's funny just sitting here listening to you guys, because you sound just like a couple in my family, because my grandma is from Ireland. My grandfather's from Italy. So everything that you're saying is just right in line with my family in Chicago. And, I think it's really interesting to hear how you took this kind of a long time ago, homeschooling. I never even heard of homeschooling when I was growing up.
Neither did I.
Right. So that must have been a huge change. And also, like, you came from that world of cooking and being a chef. And I know, like, there is a lot of pressures in that industry, right? And so I imagine it must have been quite the transition when you decided to hang up that apron and move into real estate. What did that look like? And then, Julia, how did you handle that?
Well, I remember coming home one day. It was 10 degrees outside. I was wearing long johns. I smelled like garlic. And I just said to her, I can't keep doing this. There's no future for us here. I'm living in New York. The governor is saying that they don't like our conservative values. It's 10 degrees outside. The ability to build a business in New York is dwindling. I'm making less money. I'm working harder. I have to find something different. What do you think if I go into real estate? And I sprung it on her, and I thought she would have been like, what are you, nuts? Like, we have all these kids. And I mean, I can let her finish the story, but when she said yes to me, it's like, okay, now that she's given me license to actually pursue this, I have to be really serious. I have to spend a ton of time. I have to spend money on my education. I have to do the work. And it's still to this day, after I get off this podcast, I've got to call a broker. So it's not something you turn off. It's something that gets instilled in you. And at least I had that work ethic from the restaurant. We both did from the restaurant in those years, because it's constant work. It's a lot of hard work, and it becomes part of your DNA, and you bring that into the marriage. And then when I had that difficult situation, I asked her, and she really didn't hesitate. I think she saw the pain that I was going through. I just didn't like the job anymore. Coming home, being tired, having the kids see that I hate my job. I didn't want that. And then ultimately, my fear was that I was not living up to my potential, that God gave me more. He gave me a great family. He gave me a great start. He gave me a lot. And I'm sitting there in the kitchen, hiding, washing dishes in the back, when I knew that I think all of us are built for greatness. And if I think that, but I'm not living in incongruity with that, that made me feel really, really terrible. So I was like, I don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah. I think I knew, and I saw, like Gino said, I did see him come home. And I think sometimes, in marriage, we go through these stages of, I'm not going to use the word selfish, but just more on, my day has been really hard. The kids are hard, which is all real and it's all true. And when you're home with the kids all day long, it feels like you're drowning for real. Like you can't even shower sometimes. I'm in there, and then your husband comes home tired, and there's this battle of who had the worst day. You know what I mean? But we do get caught up in that. And I've gotten caught up in that for years. And I know my husband had it as well. But watching him, and when he asked me and said, listen, what if we sell the restaurant and just, do real estate full time? There was a moment there where I'm like, but then it's like our identity was part of the restaurant. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows us as the Gino's Trattoria family. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm like, we're going to lose that. And there was a moment of selfishness where I'm like, but what about this? And I had to stop and say, okay, what does my husband need? What is he actually asking for? And I watched it for years. It's not like it just happened overnight. And it was a moment of, I need to actually put you first for real. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we use those, my husband comes first before this, that, and the other thing. But our actions don't show that. And so my question to myself was, how am I showing that I am actually putting his needs
Guys, I'm really selfish
before.
too, because like 2 years later, I said, "Hey, Jewel, can we leave Florida and move to Florida? Can we leave New York?" And it was another one of those where it's like a big thing. But I think I knew it would have been best long term for our children to live down here, cost of living, the weather, whatever. But I also needed separation as well. And I think that was another inflection point where my wife saw that, okay, the identity is going to be, we're going to lose the identity, but, and we're going to lose the family. But we're only going to be an hour and a half flight. And I think he needs this really well, because separating from the business, having your mother calling you at 9 o'clock at night to come and close the restaurant when you're not working there anymore, it was just difficult. How do you say no to your mom?
That's another topic altogether,
right?
Is your extended family. Extended family and your marriage. That is that is a separate topic completely, which is a lot.
So Julia, like this testing transition time, how did you stay, and it happens multiple times, right? So how did you stay grounded in that during the chaos?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we didn't have the communication that we had now. And I want to point that out, is that we went through a very, and I'm going to say difficult, but more of we weren't connected the way we are now. And that took an awakening of, oh my gosh, like I felt like we were living two different lives. He worked, I stayed home. He did the money, I didn't. There was a lot of separation at the time. And so really at that time, it was my faith that got me through it. It was my faith. I know, like in order to do God's will, I have to also help him in whatever he's needing. And he's also helping me, by the way. It's both ways. It's not just one way. But there was moments where I'm like, I don't want you to sell the restaurant. I don't want to move to New York. I don't want to leave everything that we know, everyone we know, to come down here and not know anybody. But I had to say, in order to say yes to God, I'm actually saying yes to my husband, because that was that important to me. And it was very stressful, very difficult on all of us.
And I just want to say that. I just didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I want to sell the restaurant. There was an accumulation of events. You have the Great Recession of 08. My dad passed away in 07. 08, the business it just goes terrible. Our property taxes in New York are untenable. They're continuing to go up. We got audited by New York State. That was another big dent. I have to go into this whole entire POS system where my mom and my brother are not tech savvy. I can't figure that component out. I don't know how to continue to pay the bills and start to scale. There's no wealth creation there. I don't see a future for the business. And fortunately, I don't forecast very often right. But 2020 comes, and what happens? COVID shuts everything down. If I was still at the restaurant, that restaurant would have been shut down. My income would have been completely wiped out. 25 years of legacy would have been gone. I saw the writing on the wall. For those of you that are seeing the writing on the wall, if you're saying to yourself, well, I can't leave Hawaii, for instance, because, but you know that's something you should do. Just let it sit. Don't make those rash decisions. Don't make your emotional part of your brain take over. Let the rational and the logical part, because I didn't want to leave New York. I'm a New Yorker through and through. I was born there, raised there. My last name is, it's just an Italian New York last name. That still is my identity. And it's still taking me time to get used to down here. But fortunately, I saw the pros and I saw the cons, and I had to do what I thought was best, not only just for myself, but for my family as well, and for the long-term outlook for my family, so that when my kids get older, they can afford to buy homes down south. They're already acclimated to down south. And I think one last thing that I would say is, if you're a parent listening to this and you're saying, well, I really can't do it because my kids, your happiness comes first, and the decision between the two of you is more important than making your kids feel uncomfortable. Now, that may be a very unpopular subject, but I think it's so true, because our two oldest kids loved it. Our two youngest kids loved it. The two in the middle really did not like it for several years. It took them several years to acclimate, but they finally did. And I'm just thankful that I didn't use that as an excuse to say, well, my kids, when they get older, will do. No, if you're considering doing it, your kids will figure it out like you, and you do it as a family, and don't use them as an excuse to not take the leap.
Man, I like so much of that. I feel like New York to Florida is a pretty migratory route. Like everybody I know from New York, they age and then they move to Florida, right? It's just like people from Chicago, they age and then they move to Arizona.
You just did it early.
You were ahead of the curve. So, and I want to go back to, because like you also mentioned like this was your identity, right? I mean, you're in New York, you're Italian, you're a chef, you're all the things, you're all of it, right? And then going from that to, I'm going to be a real estate investor and I'll move my family down to Florida. That's a lot. And I don't know if that's all at one time, but I know that first apartment complex that you bought, you mentioned it was in 2013, I think. And so that must have been, and you had to figure out all of that. That's a whole new industry, right? So there must have been times when you're like, what am I doing? Should I open up another restaurant? Like, was there times that you just felt like, I want to go back. I want to go back to the kitchen.
I never want to go back to the kitchen. I'm referred to as the one dish wonder. I can make one dish here. I crush it. After
all
that,
the kids make fun of him. They're like, Dad, which are you going to make dinner? Oh, you're making the one dish. Yeah.
See, this is the problem. The problem was that I never really learned how to run a real estate business. I had a real estate job. I was never understanding of systems and processes and people and scale and culture and core values. I was the chef. I wasn't smart enough at the time to say, let me go out and hire somebody and pay them this and let me build a brand. It may have been a lot different if I had done that. I wasn't wise enough. I didn't have enough experience. In 2009, I met my business partner, Jake. He was working out of the restaurant. That's why, and taking food out of the restaurant. We started looking at investing in 2011. I was still working at the restaurant and doing both at the same time. It took me 5 years to be able to leave the restaurant in 2016 March and go full time. And in those, I was doing both ventures. And what I would say is I didn't leave because the money that I was making in real estate, I was able to reinvest it into the real estate, right, where I didn't have to live. And the restaurant was paying for our lifestyle. So it gave me enough of a cushion that when I ultimately did leave, I'm like, I have enough money in the bank. I can handle this. In February of 2017, we decided to come to Florida and live here for a month. Then we ended up moving in June of 2017. So basically a year after we left the restaurant, it gave me time to acclimate. I started getting used to the real estate, and I had already been doing real estate. So it was a natural transition, getting into acquisitions, getting into underwriting deals, asset management. Those were already a lot of my duties and functions, podcasting and writing books and articles. So I had already been doing that. But once I decided to do it full time, I did it from a financial foundation that was stable because I had the kids and I didn't want to. And that's a lesson for everybody listening to. You don't have to burn the ships physically. Metaphorically, in your mind, you should do that. But don't listen to anybody telling you that you need to quit tomorrow and go into it full time. That to me is reckless, irresponsible, and you have the get-there-itis because then you have to do a deal. Yeah. If I did a deal, great. If I didn't, I was still putting food on the table with the restaurant. And listen, if I had to go drive Uber Eats or do whatever, I would do that. So at least have additional income coming in where you're doing your real estate business and you're able to allocate the funds from that real estate business back into the real estate business to continue to create more equity within the business. You want to add anything to that, baby?
Well, I do. There's one thing when Gino, I want to make this point because this is actually a question that I would get from a lot of women about the same situation where the husband wanted to do real estate and they had a great job. Like we don't want him to leave. And I said, my husband always, when he would work many, many hours, he would come home late. And when he came home, he wouldn't sit and watch the football game or whatever. He would actually go do real estate. And so he was working a crazy amount. And I saw that. I saw his work ethic. I saw all of that. And I think that's important to remember. It's not like he was just, hey, let me try real estate. I'm going to, sell the restaurant, because it takes a lot of education and it takes a lot of trials and who's going to be my partner and all of that. So it's important that men, if you're trying to do what my husband was doing, you have to show your wife that you're in it and not just a couple weeks. I mean, it was years for him to do his education and actually read. I mean, we would get like an Amazon book. What Amazon would come all the time. The kids were all excited and they're like, it's just another real estate book. So he would be reading constantly and learning constantly on his free time. And so that's something to take away from that.
Yeah, the calculated risk. And I think that's kind of what you were alluding to earlier too, of like, if you want to do the thing, have a plan. Like it's not just a simple mindset shift.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the other part of that too is like today everybody's got their cell phones, right? And they're scrolling Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever. And they say, oh, real estate investor, this guy, Lamborghinis and Ferraris and all this. That's not reality. And if it is, these are people that it didn't just happen overnight, right? Like it took us 5 years before we could leave our W-2 job, but we were doing it just like you, Gino, like every day it was learning and reading and taking a step forward. And, you know, we hit some numbers right. And we got to the point where we were able to step away from that W-2. Doesn't mean that we don't work really hard to find the next deal. We still do. And to be honest, we haven't bought anything in a year because it doesn't pencil here right now. But I want to ask you, because you've gone through and you've done the high level stuff, for people who want to get into multifamily and are kind of sitting on the sidelines right now, what would you say are the first 3 steps that they should take?
The very first step, and I say this to everybody because everyone is different. What are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? If you want to leave your job in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to take different actions than if you're just looking for a little bit of passive income, a little bit of money coming in, or if you're looking for a retirement. If you're looking to do this part-time, I would go out and try to find some type of syndications, start investing as a passive investor. You can learn while you earn. Obviously, you have to understand and learn the business as if you're going to be investing actively. You know, you have to learn how to buy right. You have to learn how to finance right. And you have to learn how to manage right. That's important no matter what. So that's the first step. Understanding the goals, right? Understanding what you're trying to accomplish. The second component to that is you have to learn the business itself and pick whatever niche you love. I love multifamily. That's, to me, one of the best vehicles on the planet. But if you think you can't start there, then start with a single family home, start with a mobile home park, start with whatever you like. You know, we wrote this book, Happy Money, Happy Family, Happy Legacy. What brings you happiness? What's your relationship with money? Where do you see yourself investing and having a great time? It may be Bitcoin. Forget about real estate. But if it's in the real estate space, try to find out what you really enjoy. That's the first thing. Second thing, goals, education, picking the niche. And then the third thing, obviously, is the market. Where are you going to do it? And if you're going to try to buy multifamily in Hawaii, it may be a little bit more challenging. So understanding what market you're able to get to, what market makes sense for you as far as demographics, as far as population, job growth, that all makes sense. So if you follow that framework, it'll at least give you an understanding of where to start. But it always starts with you, with the person yourself, with what you're trying to accomplish.
Hey family, real quick. If you'd rather watch your content, head over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You'll find this episode and all our episodes over there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your takeaways in the comments. Now, back to the show. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Get your why straight first. So like that. So, okay. You've both recently become certified money coaches, and that's a whole new lane on top of everything else that you guys have going on. So can you tell us about that? What exactly is money coaching, and what do you hope that people take away after they've coached with you?
The year was 2018. We had just gone back to New York. We're driving over the Mario Cuomo Bridge, which was the Tappan Zee Bridge. We're going to Cranford, New Jersey to a real estate event. And I'm speaking at, actually, it's Jason Yarusi's event. And I remember going downstairs, there's Remax office, there's about 50 people there. And I start talking, and I'm talking about life coaching. And I thought I did a pretty good job. I didn't think I did like an amazing job. I thought it was okay. At the end of the event, people are going up to my wife and they're shedding tears and they're saying, "Thank you for sharing your husband with me. And he's so great and he's changed my life." I'm embellishing it a little bit, but
No, not really.
And then after the event, she comes up to me and goes, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a life coach. That's what I do." And she's like, "I got to check this life coaching thing out." So she ended up becoming a marriage and life coach. And then from there, she just was great. Then she became a high performance coach. And we just love the space. We love coaching people. We love helping people. And it actually makes us better. And we had our kids go through the programs. And about a year ago, I ended up selling the Jake and Gino education platform. I still own the brand. And I always had this feeling, I'm like, why are some people doing so well and understand money, and some people just can't close a deal? And I understood, finally, it's all about a person's relationship with money. I did a little AI search. I'm like, coaching, money, And all of a sudden, the Money Coaching Institute and all of a sudden, money coaching popped up. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to understand a person's relationship with money. I want to understand their beliefs. I want to understand their patterns. I want to understand what blocks, what's holding them back, and what their emotions and what their relationships are with money. So what I typically do is I dive right in. I'm like, Jewel, I'm doing this. And about 30 seconds later, I said, you should do it too. And she's like, I don't know. Money, I don't want to look. I'm like, this has nothing to do with cap rates. There's no refi rolls. There's no cash on cash. This is more about the psychology of money. And she joined about a week or two after me. We went through the whole entire course together. I went through the pains first because I'm going through it. I'm figuring it out. Then she's asking me questions and I'm helping her out. And it was really cool to go through the entire process because we ended up coaching a few students in the program. But it's just an amazing platform. It really deals with the therapy, the psychology of money. And what I love about it is you get to talk about money with somebody in an open and honest way. You get them to see how they view money, how they utilize money, what their beliefs are. And I think to me, that's the crux of what most investors, they make their mistakes upon. They don't understand what their relationship with money is and what's really holding them back with money.
Can I just add something? You make the story sound so lovely. I love that.
Why?
Because the only reason I joined, well, my husband, the word money would make me cringe. And I know that sounds crazy, but when we were married all these years, and probably up until a year ago, even 6 months ago, even his book, Happy Money, I'm like, oh. Why? Because my thought process, my relationship, my beliefs around money were so skewed. And I didn't really notice it until we actually had Deborah Price on our podcast not too long ago, right before I joined. And as she's talking, I'm like, oh, I trust my husband with the money. So I just let him take care of it. I don't really have anything to do with it because I trust him. I trust him. I kept using that phrase, I trust him. And it was during the podcast I realized, wow, I am really messed up when it comes to money. I have such a bad relationship with it. I don't even want anything to do with it. I want to avoid it altogether and let him take care of it because I am the person that doesn't want anything to do with it because I'm uncomfortable with it. And I was never taught what it could do and the positive views of it. And so my background was my mom was single. Money was always an issue. Anyone that had money in our family was the bad guy, but they were the bad guy, but not because they had money, but just they would have been had they been poor. And so my view of it was just stay away from it. And so in our marriage, so of course I married an entrepreneur Italian who was very good with money. And so I was conflicted all these years. I just turned 50 years old. It took me 50 years of my life to realize that my view of money was so skewed and so unhealthy that I became a certified money coach to break that. And I realized that, wow. And I know we did the course together and our marriage changed so much during this time because now we could talk about it. Now I uncovered the uncomfortableness, all the things that I believed about it, that it was, I don't need to touch it. So now we're learning things together for the first time. I'm looking at spreadsheets with him. I'm looking at the finances around the house because I think that's a lot of people's issue around money, and especially in marriage. If they are uncomfortable with it or they don't want to touch it, they just hand it over to the other person.
Yeah.
Hands off.
And then when she needs money, she asks me, like, what do you need the money for?
Right. And it's an uncomfortable conversation. So that has changed our marriage. And I'm like, this is what everyone needs. They need to go through this program. It's four sessions, literally, and it will just change your life.
Yeah.
Because
we actually just did an exercise like that in a family program that we're in with Scott Donnell. And we are around entrepreneurs. There are a lot of entrepreneurs in the group, but how they view money, how we've been brought up with money and the mentality of money is very different from making and spending. Yes. And so, there were a lot of things that we realized that were rooted in our childhoods. Yeah. And you don't want to pass those on to your kids. So I love that.
Yeah. And I want to put out that's what we realized. We're like, oh my gosh. And I started asking the kids these questions and I'm like, oh, you're taking all these from us. I'm like, let's start over. Let's start talking about this.
But it's one of those things where you may want to have some of those patterns pass over to your children. So the
Some
whole
of them are
idea
good.
is to uncover all the patterns that you've adopted, and even the ones that you haven't. If you've got a father who's never around the house, who is bad with money, who you're living in poverty, you may grow up and say, I'm going to become rich.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that person. That's just as disempowering, because when you become rich, you're going to feel just as empty.
Well,
And
you're
you
making a vow based off of something negative.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think
exactly.
that's like,
Yes.
I'm never going to, whatever it is, but it's
Yes.
coming from a place of brokenness.
Yes.
And so you want to revisit that and say, why did I feel that way? Because
Yes.
it's always going to be negative in that sense. Because you, right?
Yeah. And then what you do,
so you're
Joel,
uncovering.
you're uncovering that, and you're saying, well, I don't want to be like my dad, but what do I want to do that's going to make me happy? Now you start focusing on yourself and not focusing on getting away from that pain. You're moving away from pain. You want to move towards pleasure. But how can you move towards pleasure if your patterns and your unconscious beliefs are always trying to escape that? That's what you're trying to uncover in that scenario. But in all scenarios, there's positive patterns. I was a great saver. But the negative pattern from being a great saver is you live in scarcity.
Yeah.
You live in fear. You save for a rainy day, never for a sunny day. And it's really disempowering. So understanding that and going, okay, you're saving money, but why are you saving money? And why can't you enjoy it? There's a lot of people out there that live in that fear, and they've grown up in those.
And then too, being on the other side of that, now I have my husband, you can see the stress, you can feel the stress. And so then I'm uncomfortable in our marriage to say, hey, the kids need braces or whatever it is, some big amount. And I'm like literally terrified to tell my husband my kids need something. And I feel like it's my fault.
And it's not like I'm going out and gambling. It's like I'm trying to be as responsible. In the money coaching sphere, there's something called an archetype. An archetype is like a character within you. And there's 8 archetypes, but the 2 archetypes that we possessed was I was the tyrant. I was the controlling one. I was the fearful one. I was the anxious one. I was the domineering one. And it was more of a self-tyrant, not towards her, but more of myself. I was torturing myself. And she was more of the innocent, where she put her head in the sand. Yep. She didn't care about money at all. So you can see how that dynamic plays. The tyrant is going to be overbearing, over-controlling. And that's just not really a great way to go through a relationship.
It's funny. We lived like that for 26 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we made it work. And when I look back, I'm like, wow, if we talked about this years ago, life would have been
I became less of a tyrant. Once I would say around 10 years ago.
I'm going to get you a t-shirt. I'm the tyrant.
For the record, I became less, and
You're more aware.
I was healing my relationship with money a lot.
Completely.
A long time ago, whereas I started to enjoy spending money, and then I started enjoying buying things, and that was different. But as far as our relationship, it was a little bit more. But 10 years ago, the tyrant started loosening up, because I started realizing I'm financially free now. Why do I have to stress so much? I'm making money here. Money is not the object. Money is the result. Money is a way to create impact. So I started healing my relationship with money years and years ago. She was just a little bit of a slacker. That's
okay.
all.
I got there.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, just not even just like the fear of money. You kind of stepped into those roles together. You complemented each other because you both had those beliefs. And the flip side of that, I would just say, because I have experienced the situation with my parents and that traditional household where mom she didn't want to go to the bank to get their bank statement because that was too scary.
Yes.
And so that to me also as just the lack of empowerment in that and not being secure if dad's not around. Yeah. And so I don't want that for any wife or mother, because that is a very scary, vulnerable position to be in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that you guys did the coaching together. I think that speaks volumes, right? And I think people have to be aligned and they have to be on the same page. Otherwise, it becomes very, very easy for one person to fall back into maybe an unhealthy routine. From the things that you learned during the coaching, is that all stuff that you put into the book? Or did the book come first?
It's actually interesting.
It's very weird.
Book came first because I interviewed a gentleman named Ken Honda. So if you go to the Julia and Gino podcast, Ken Honda's on there. You probably would know him. He's the Japanese guru. He's written 8 million copies. And on the podcast, he said, Gino, you need to write Happy Money, Happy Properties. Japanese accent, but he speaks great English. Happy Money, Happy Properties, Happy Family. I'm like, I don't want to write another real estate book. I want to write a book based on family, but I like Happy Money, Happy Family. happy legacy. I wanted to put that legacy component in. And as I wrote it, and it was a great experience for me. I sat down, wrote a chapter a week, used sort of a ghostwriting service. But as I'm writing it and I'm going back and I'm thinking and remembering about all of these stories that I had, it dawned on me, start going the money coaching route. I'm like, oh, money coaching came after the book, but a lot of the stuff that's in the book is so relevant to the money coaching. And I'm like, I think I have to write another book in the next year or so, just a couple more stories in it and try to promote the money coaching in the book, because it wasn't part of my life a little over a year ago.
Wow. So, that's really cool. It's really cool that you were that aligned before and you were able to write that, and now you've got even more that you can put into it. So kudos to you on that. A lot of entrepreneurs lose themselves chasing money or chasing the next deal, right? And they lose their families that way too, right? So what are some non-negotiables that you guys have put in around your family that helps you to build both your family legacy and your entrepreneurial journey?
I don't play golf. I mean, I wish I could. I would have loved to go out every Sunday morning and spend 6 hours with buddies. That's something I can't do. I gave that up. We go to church every Sunday, so I can't do that. Don't really watch football on Sundays either. They lost me several years ago, and it's just what a waste of time that is. Used to be a big Yankees fan. Don't watch baseball either, because it's one of those things where 162 games, 3 hours a night. I mean, it does add up. Yeah. And it's one of those things where we do a lot of things together with the family. We would watch Netflix together. We'd watch a lot of shows together. We do eat meals multiple times a day. Like I said, we homeschool the kids, so it seems like we're having meals all the time. My coffee bill is just incredible. How much coffee we go through in a week is just ridiculous.
It's not the coffee, it's the coffee machines. We went to Italy, and now we have 2 different espresso machines.
Yeah, but those espresso machines need to be fed with pods and stuff and beans. It's incredible. But it's one of those things where you need to spend time with the family. And I think the question that entrepreneurs need to ask themselves is, everyone always says, I'm doing it for my kids. Did you ever ask your kids if that's what they want? And that question will smack you in the face and go, wow, did the kids ever ask you if they wanted $450 million in assets under management? My kids would probably say no. I mean, I think that's the reality. And it comes back to your relationship with money. Who are you really doing it for? Are you trying to satiate your appetite? And there's nothing wrong with that, but at least understand that's what you're doing. And when you become conscious of that and you have that aha moment, you're like, wow, I'm being really selfish. I'm being really greedy. I'm not doing it for them. Then you can make the decision to say, well, you know what? I don't have to spend 9 hours in the office. I can spend 7 hours in the office and take those 2 hours off and not feel guilty either way, but becoming clear. Right? If you're aiming at no target, you're going to hit it every single time. You have to understand what the target is to be able to hit it. And I think most people don't understand what that target looks like.
I think too is always to ask yourself, what are my values? What am I actually? And because when I coach someone, I ask about their values, and they give me this beautiful list. First comes this, then I'm like, that is so beautiful. I said, give me evidence that that's true. Well, I'm like, well, I've been working really, really hard for them, just like Gino said. I'm like, but if you said your marriage comes it's very high on the list. How is that? Show me what you've done this week. Well, we're talking about going out to dinner. I'm like, okay. And so we get into a rhythm of, okay, every night I have people write down, if faith comes first, how did it come first? If God truly comes first in your life, here are the things I did today. If your wife comes first, here are the things I did today. If your children, you know what I mean? Because then you're like, okay, actually my values were work, buddy time. The kids are all the way at the bottom because they're busy. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those wake up calls. So all of us to say, okay, if we really have values and we want to live according to them, we have to show ourselves that we're actually doing that. And if that means work, then be honest. Be like, listen, work is my priority. Right. Be honest and say it. And it's okay. But just say what it is.
We've had mentors say, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah. And it's hard. It stings sometimes. Yeah.
I like that you talk about values, right? Because it's such an important thing. And your kids have had front row seats to all your successes and everything that you're doing. What are some of the things that you've seen in them that they've picked up that you're most proud of?
So, and our failures. So, front row to successes, and I think they learn more from our failures than our successes. I am not very good at apologizing. Just going to put it out there. I just don't really like to do
It might
it.
come with the Italian. I think it comes with the Italian you.
That's a learning
but
process.
there is, it's not perfection, it's progress.
There you go.
It's
That's
so
right.
hard, and especially as an adult trying to apologize to a 14-year-old, and even now it's very challenging. So when you can apologize and say sorry, they see that, so they mirror you. It's one of those things. I mean, if you can go down the money hole, it's very easy for me to teach my kids about money. I like to talk about it. They're very receptive. I used to push it on them too much. Now I make it a lot more fun. I make it more interactive. I'll do one lesson a week and they get a ton out of it. So I think just be careful with your mirroring. Be careful, what you're saying. If you're telling them to be financially responsible and you're racking up credit card debt and you've got 3 car payments and you can't pay the mortgage, they're going to look at that and they're going to call BS. And I think as far as other successful things, what we do, we try to be as transparent and as authentic as possible with our kids. We don't really, they're around all the time. It's so hard for us to have a conversation by ourselves. They are so embedded in it. And some people may say that's not good, but at least they hear how we're having conversations and how we're making decisions. So when they become adults, I'm not telling them what to do. It's amazing because my 26-year-old is part of a film crew, and she's got some of these great ideas. And I was talking to the guy she's working with, and I'm like, "Hey, Rich, did you do this?" He's like, "Yeah, your daughter mentioned that." "Hey, Rich, are you going to?" No, I'm like, "Wow, that is pretty amazing."
Well, I think, I think too is that we included them in pretty much everything we did. And so back from the restaurant days, the kids would go in and work with grandma, and I think we've included them. The mistake, and then fast forward to real estate, with every time Gino would have a big event, the kids were right there selling tickets, selling t-shirts, whatever. I think one of the mistakes that we made, that I'm looking back, is that at one point they didn't want to go. They didn't want to be part of certain things. And I'm like, you got to go. You got to support your dad. You know what I mean? And it came negative to the point where there was a little bit of resentment.
Sure.
The mom now, I would actually just talk to them, be like, what's going on? They coach me. Sometimes they're like, Mom, can you turn the coach part off? I just want my mom, But I think that's important, is to include the kids in where they are. Some kids are really interested in real estate. Some are not. Some are interested in cooking. Some are not. Some are interested in coaching. Some think, they're not interested. And I think it's important as parents that we actually ask our kids the questions and then just sit back and listen. Because too many times, and I'm sure you've heard many times, is how do you get your kids to listen? And always my response is, well, you have to listen to what they're saying. You actually have to listen to them. And sometimes that's all it takes for them to connect with you. Because it's constantly telling kids what to do, they're going to start tuning you out.
I just wish my wife would take her own advice and listen to me a little bit more. That's all.
I think she does.
I actually don't, because he said the other day, I'm like, we got to talk about this. He's like, Julie, we talk about this every time we're on a podcast. I'm like, I think I zone you out sometimes.
Maybe that's why you have such a happy marriage.
And that's
right. Yeah, that is exactly why.
I think, all right, so you guys are dropping so much really, really good information and good tips. But I got to ask the big question that I think everyone listening wants to know. What is that one dish?
So one dish wonder to me on our first date was at your house. You invited me over. No one knew about it, again, because I was the blonde sheep in the family. That I was the Irish one. And so it was a secret. I came to his house. His whole family was working at the restaurant. He made me shrimp and sole marinara.
Yeah.
And linguine.
Yes.
Nice.
It was delicious. And that's his one dish.
That's all right.
That's her one dish.
I
well
like it.
done.
Well, I'm getting hungry after that. But before we wrap all this up and put an olive on top, I want to ask you the final 4 questions that we ask every guest. Okay. And it starts with this. Who are 3 people, books, or places that inspire you?
And it could be a combination.
It's actually interesting because somebody asked me, who are the 3 people that I like to meet? And I mentioned them, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. I've got to be honest. If I could meet them 3, that would be pretty incredible.
What would you ask Mary?
Yes. Huh?
What would you ask her?
What would I ask Mary? Wow. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, like, for her to say yes and to have the faith in that. And when I think about it, that she said at the foot of the cross and she saw that her son she knew that and she had to go through that and go through that pain. And how did she have the faith to be able to say, wow, he's going to suffer like that and I can't do anything to stop that suffering? That is like got to be the worst torment for a parent, to know that your son's going to suffer and there's nothing that you can do about it. And he's going to be ridiculed, and he's going to be, you have to have some incredible faith to go through that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that kind of leads us into the next question. How do you find peace?
Okay, so I answered the first one, so you can answer the second one. How do you find peace?
Through
Jill?
my faith. We're Catholic, we're Christian, and I think that's where I find my peace is. I mean, I sometimes I think about like how we just recently watched some old videos of when the kids were little, and I just look and I'm like, wow, that was a lot. That was a lot to have all, 6 kids at home. It was winter all the time, it seemed like. And how did I survive that, in a sense? And how did I survive my husband working all the time? And it was just the surrender, to surrender of saying, okay, this is where I am right now. So where God put me right now. And I'm just going to absorb where I am. I have no idea what it looks like tomorrow or next week or next year. And I'm just going to know that something amazing is going to come out of this. And I know as a mom, sometimes you just think like, is this my life? Like, how am I giving back to society with like just raising kids at home? And you don't see what's coming out. You don't see the fruit for many, many years. Like there's nobody talking to you because they're a little, right? But fast forward, I know God sees it, and he just wait. And here we are, fast forwarding all these years, and I see my kids like literally going out in the world and changing lives. And I'm just like, that's what I didn't see. And so just be present in the moment and know that something big is coming. Just do God's will, and something amazing is going to come out of it.
Yeah.
In just one sentence, what would you whisper to your younger self?
Don't change anything. I mean, I would have loved to get out of the restaurant sooner, but that wasn't the time to do it. Become financially free. I don't know. I would just say,
just be present. Just be present, and don't worry.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
I love that.
I know.
And have more kids. It's probably what I would have said. He will provide. Yes.
Well, we'd like to end by asking this final question. And we say here, we learn, we share, we grow. And I want to know, what is one thing that you've learned recently that just made you stop and breathe and maybe see life a little different?
It was interesting. During the money coaching program, you actually get coached by Deborah as well. And it was very interesting. One of the patterns that I had created or adopted ever since childhood is I was always really busy. And when I sold the business for a few months, I slowed down there. And my pattern of being very busy, when I'm not busy, it would make me nervous. It'd make me feel uneasy. And I didn't understand that pattern. Did a little polyvagal breathing by Stephen Porges, breathing in, breathing out, trying to break that pattern and saying, it's okay if you're not doing anything. It's still not okay. I'm still trying to get over that. It's still very difficult because I've been doing it my entire life. But to learn that about yourself, to learn some of those patterns was really an epiphany for me to say, it's okay. I mean, like, you're not as busy as you used to be. You're doing something different. Don't equate, the worth and the money you're making with success or happiness. Understand that. And that was a big, big learning lesson for me.
I think just to be authentic, I realized recently that, we try to look apart, we try to play the part and all that, and this perfect family, perfect house, whatever. And I think just being authentic is what brings us peace, but what other people really are desiring to see in you. I think sometimes people, it's the Instagram life. Like no one has that perfect life, their house. Sometimes I'm like, let's show the house messy. You know what I mean? Let's just show realness, because really people want to know that they're not alone. And I think that's important, that we realize that other people have the same issues, the same backgrounds, and so on. And I think my realization, I just watched a podcast about something similar to what we're talking about. It's like, oh, wow, I thought they were so high up there and they had this perfect life. I'm like, they're just real like me. And I think that's something to remember. Yeah, my husband and I, we've been married a long time. We have a lot of kids, and it was real. It was really some difficult moments, some difficult years. but it's all about what you're putting in, and you keep apologizing. I'm actually a good apology. I'm good about it. I'm like, I messed up. I'm sorry. But that's what it just start over. Yeah.
I'm a listener. I'm listening for that one, baby. I'm not hearing it.
I think I apologize to the kids very easily. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
And that's the beauty of it. That is part of the journey. And this is why we get to have conversations like this, because we are a lot more similar than we are different. And I'm super grateful for you guys being here. So thank you so much. Such a meaningful conversation. And I know our audience is going to take so much from this. I know we are too. If anyone wants to connect with you folks or learn more about the money coaching, where is the best way for them to do that?
Just go to barbaro360.com. That's BARBARO360.com. On the website, there's a money quiz. You can take a money quiz, get results, and then you can continue to reach out to us if you'd like.
Great.
That is awesome. Gino, Julia, thank you guys so much. It's been an honor having you here. We really, really appreciate you both. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want a closer look at our journey through real life, business, and all the wild adventures, follow us on Instagram at Our Family Invest. And for free resources to help you on your own path, head to ourfamilyinvest.com.
If you like this episode, send it to a friend. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a quick review. It really helps us grow this community. Thank you so much for being part of our family today. We really, truly appreciate you.